think that pilot has reached the point where it's becoming repetitious now?
Yes.
Do you think it should break away from being pop art?
No.
Are you just going to carry on?
Yes.
He won more fame when he started producing silk-screen posters of dead icons, increasing their posthumous fame while causing some experts in pharmacology to observe that he looked as if he had already achieved posthumous fame while he was still alive. But what made Warhol lastingly famous was his announcement that in the future everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. Whether or not it was accurate as a prediction, it certainly matched the temper of the times. Look at Andy. If anyone ever looked like nobody, it was him. And think how far he had gone. And think how far he was going.
After a decade of planning, hard work, we're willing and ready to attempt to achieve our national goal.
His name was Neil Armstrong, and he was going to the moon. Armstrong was chosen to be the man who would actually step on the moon first because he was held to possess the right qualities of utter dependability and dedication. But all the other astronauts possessed those qualities too. They were all long on virtue and short on individual characteristics. With their haircuts from a previous decade and their values from a previous era, a blast from the past on its way to the future, they were all the same man with slightly different wives. As personalities, they barely registered. Armstrong did his best to rise to the historic moment. He prepared a line which he would say when he stepped onto the moon's surface. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Since man and mankind are the same thing, what he said was strictly meaningless. But it didn't really matter what he said. Armstrong could have been someone else, and the result would have been the same. He was world famous without ever having emerged from obscurity. He didn't need a personality. The man with the personality was about to get into the act.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you... For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives.
The man with the personality was there to welcome the moon hero back from space and bathe in the reflected glory. JFK had set the project up, and Nixon reaped the reward. Nixon wasn't as flagrant as LBJ, who had been so keen to be associated with orbiting astronauts that he would have caught them in his outstretched arms when they returned to Earth, if he had been allowed to. Nixon knew how to play the scene. Cynics said that Tricky Dick was up to his usual games. But maybe the bad guy was the right guy for the job. If America could conquer space, it might work the other trick and bring all those other boys back home from the jungle. Suddenly, Nixon was looking like the man. With no good name to lose, everything he could bring off was a plus. The most famous man in the world, he had nothing left to fear. Unless, of course, not that it was likely, he made some stupid mistake.
There can be no whitewash at the White House.
Clive returns next Saturday at 9:30, and his book and audio tape of Fame in the 20th Century is available from ABC shops. In 1961, with their wit, glamour and sheer numbers, the Kennedys took Washington by storm. Could they possibly live up to their campaign rhetoric? Find out in The Kennedys in The Big Picture, Thursday night at 9:30. Coming up, Judy Garland stars in Easter Parade.